Gabe and Fragility, what is up? Quote today that I posted on my Instagram. I don't remember off the top of my head. It was Malcolm X, but he was talking about how the mainstream media is the most powerful organization on the planet because they can basically say who's guilty or not guilty or innocent or not innocent, and they control the narrative, and it makes them the most powerful entity because they control what the masses think. And I've been thinking about this a lot. I talk about this a lot. And I talk about this on my Instagram, which is obviously like a health-focused channel. So like people just don't seem to really respond to it or like pay attention. They don't like it's maybe a bigger idea than they're wanting to let into their consciousness, which is a problem I've had as I expand to talk about some of these ideas. But if we think about what's going on in 2020, and like I said, I'm not really talking about current events anymore. So this is just evergreen. This is just evergreen society, mainstream media, government control, centralization, all these different ideas. So this is something that's going to probably always apply for as long as we have government and we have a narrative and we have a news and big tech and whatever. This is always going to apply. Okay. The majority of people in 2020 don't understand a lot of things. Okay. They don't understand science. They don't understand how pandemics work, how flus work, viruses, nature, the immune system, health, vitamin D, like the list goes on. They're afraid of things they don't understand. They don't really, they don't know how things work. They don't know how they understand to which they could maybe then think differently about these things, think from a place of first principles and from reason, from critical thought. And they then go into the world and tell people how they should act and do things out of fear, like step away from me. I'm walking on a trail in nature and I'm going to step 6 feet to this side to pass you. Like this stuff is going on like crazy. I've heard of people yelling at people for not wearing masks out in nature and things like that. So people are literally afraid and they're aggressively trying to make others conform to things they don't understand. And then we take that a step further. Their entire worldview on, people like that, which is actually the masses at this point, they vote a certain way, they think a certain way, they believe this is like socialism is good or communism is good in a certain way, or they don't really understand the nuances of it and the pros and cons. They think capitalism is bad, they think the rich are bad. Like all these ideas that are basically just theoretical nonsense that has been proven time and time again throughout history don't work for a lot of reasons, but most of which fundamentally is an ignoring of biology of human nature. Their entire worldviews are based on what they're told to think. Like, think about that a second. Isn't that crazy? Now, if you're watching this, you're probably a free-thinking individual. You're probably even agreeing with a lot of what I'm saying right now. Consider yourself in a very, very small percent of the population. You are an outlier. We are an outlier at this point. And the internet was supposed to promise to bring more critical thinking, more sharing of ideas, more freedom and meritocracy and everything, like opportunity to everyone. And all it's done is become a proxy for what we had before. Mainstream media, government, control, consolidation, power, and a few people at the top kind of controlling what everyone at the bottom does. That's all it's done. Now, of course, it's done some things and it has allowed people like you and I to do these things, but we're so fringe, like fringe of fringe, that for all effective purposes, living in a modern society, the average person is more brainwashed, more of a sheep, more plugged into the matrix than ever before because through this device in real time. Like when government, big tech, and the powerful elite and the mainstream media, when they all figured out how to use the devices and ads and the algorithms or whatever, and they could use it to further and more quickly connect with the average person and tell them what to think and feel, well, now we have the internet. That's what it is at this point. It is just a centralized mind control propaganda machine for the most part. Like it does other things, like I said, but that's mostly for the effective average person living in a modern society. That's what it is. China is doing it. Every major country around the world is doing the same thing. I don't know if it's as bad in America as it is in other places or vice versa because of our mainstream media and our political system and whatever. But I suspect it's probably just as bad. So the thing that to really be aware of and consider is the average person gets their worldview from somewhere else without almost any question or challenging of those ideas, without any critical thought, without any investigation of the source material. Like, why should you believe this thing? Why are they telling me this? Like, are they full of crap? Are they onto something? Are they half right? Are they half wrong? It's just literally blind. Somebody on TV said it, so that's now what I think. If we take this on a long enough time scale into the future, you should be very, very weary of the future. And I have my plan, so I'm not really concerned for my family, but I am concerned for the average person and for a lot of the younger generation that's going to grow up, and they're not going to have any say, and they're just going to kind of follow in their parents' footsteps, indoctrinated into this system, and plugged into the matrix without even knowing that the matrix exists. That really bothers me. But if we take it on a long enough time scale, I mean, we're like Umbrella Corporation from Resident Evil type stuff, where it will just consolidate. One world government will eventually control everything, and there'll be a few powerful elite. I mean, it's either going to go that way, or it's all going to come crumbling down, and we're going to have to build something new from the ground up. I don't know. In fact, I'm curious. What do you think is going to happen? This is purely a thought experiment. This is not me trying to engage in doomsday stuff or anything like that. I believe we're just looking at, like, the way it currently is now is probably the greatest threat to humanity in the future, especially at least the way it applies in a modern society, like a modern civilized America, or like Great Britain or Germany or whatever. It'll either go the way of like the individual sovereign, where we have small city-states. Maybe we will move to a more decentralized form of government where there's lots and lots of governments instead of few consolidated. But I think before we get there, if we do get there, there's going to be major conflict, and there's going to be a further creeping of power and consolidation by the powerful and the elite that are going to keep gobbling up power, because that's what power wants. It wants more power. It wants to protect its power. And that will keep going until there's some kind of breaking point or conflict, or it crumbles in some way or something. So really interesting and fascinating to think about. And not something that you should obsess about or be worried about. Like, as long as you make plans. Buy gold, silver, Bitcoin, have your passports, identify other countries you want to go to, you're good. Right? Like, I don't even, like, this stuff doesn't bother me at all anymore. Now I just kind of think about it as a thought experiment, and as almost I'm observing what's happening, and kind of like a scientist, I would say. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments.